You can say Brian Warner of Marilyn Manson is evil, and you would not be wrong. But what you can't do is say he's stupid. He's definitely a smarter performer. You can tell by examining things he writes and says. Like one of the communist accounts that the elites pay made me think of the song "Beautiful People," and it's quietly clever. Let's put it like that. In the sense, in English, in American English, we tend to use the word beauty to apply to more physical, artistic, expressive forms of social harmony. So we'd call art beauty, we'd call somebody who's aesthetic minded in their dress beautiful. But we don't use the word beauty to apply to the social performance portion of social harmony, like how mindful you are of coddling people's emotions, how mindful you are to be always on the right side of everybody, how deft and motivated you are to be perceived as socially harmonious. We don't call that beautiful. We don't use the word beauty for that. We would use the word like decency, respectable. We only use the word, even though beauty means a very similar thing, somebody who's perceived as social, as harmonious, as pleasing to others. We don't use the word beauty to apply to social performances of harmony with the power structure and the masses. We use words like respectable or decent. And the song's quietly clever because in it he describes pure social performance behaviors. Um, Aligning with power, aligning with the structure or not. But he's using the word beautiful over and over in the song to refer to that behavior. And there's a lot to unpack in that. Of course, like people who are aesthetic minded in terms of physicality, like art, aesthetics. Is it a social performance along with behaviors that you would do, or is it really expression and for you? And obviously Marilyn Manson's art's very ugly, right? The pleasing, harmonious perception of Marilyn Manson and what he does is through its jarring shock value that it's not harmonious in any way. And he's kind of casting shade on more acceptable mainstream artists and entertainers and celebrity, where everything they do is through promoting pleasing harmony. People like Britney Spears and such at the time, right? When the song was released, we were in like a pop wave. In the year 2000, the billionaire class decided to bring back the vibe of the 80s, but worse. In the 80s, it was like pop was huge, beauty was huge, and Reagan was in office, and we were encouraged to celebrate greed and this duality of big and beautiful and selfish, but it's good and it's for everybody. They kind of did the same thing in the Y2K. I say this all the time. Like Y2K culture was very 80s, but amped a notch where never did the 80s traverse over into crime is good. Sociopathic exploitation is good. It was always like greed is good because the best people who are the most greedy and most motivated do the most for everybody. Trickle down economics, things like this. It didn't quite cross over into getting money and leaving others holding the bag is awesome because you're better than them. That the Y2K culture very much brought that into our cultural awareness where not only is it 80s like be as big as possible, as bold as possible, big crazy emo hair with black eyeliner, hi everybody, the stereotype millennial internet personality. Blah, 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 like is very like spastic in your face, eating Tide Pods for attention. Where the bigger, the bolder the personality, even through sociopathy, even through harming others, like characters like Eminem on the scene where, hip hop, like party type, let's get crunk and make money hip hop, rap type culture always had a bit of humor in it. Like when that music was focused on that frivolous lifestyle, there's always a bit of humor in it, right? You had like acts like Cypress Hill. Other day I was just saying, this is why I like ODB and why I do not like Eminem, right? Like there's an element of parody there where it's not serious totally. So the frivolity and the crime and everything they're talking about is not like, no, I seriously want you to respect these behaviors. You know, it's more like this is something that exists and I'm going to parody it to dramatic proportions in art. Whereas when you listen to Eminem, the vibe you get and all the sociopathic shit he's saying is like, mean this so seriously. I have no sense of humor, none whatsoever. That kind of paved the way to shit like Trump. Like, whoever can fuck the most people over is the winner, right? Like, that took the 80s thing. Like, no, you see, like, when people are selfish and motivated and they're CEOs, like, they make everyone richer. It's good. Like, the Y2K culture was like, if you can short a stock and leave someone holding the bag and contribute nothing but sociopathic satanic destruction, you're the best person. Really you are. If you can like run a human trafficking ring of teenage girls and make them sing I'm a slave for you, you're the winner. Like we didn't have that in the 80s. So it's like millennial culture is very 80s, but amped to like destroying your country is great because you're the winner in it. That was all designed to like pave the way for Trump. Even the Apprentice came out in Y2K. He's great because he can fire them. He has all that power. Everything about millennial culture was taking what they started in the 80s and getting you ready for like being run by gang warlords is actually really cool. But anyway, going back to the beautiful people and how it's quietly clever in that. In American English, we don't usually call social schmoozing harmony, performance, beauty. We call it decency, respect, a great person. But it's the same thing as what we would call beautiful. Like something is beautiful if it makes you feel good by looking at it, right? And it's like making a comment on mainstream celebrity and artists and people we call beautiful. Are they doing that because they genuinely want to express this or because they're trying to fit in and get power through obedience, right? In other cultures, they call physical beauty decency. Like there's this viral channel of this like upper caste Indian mother. You can tell she's very wealthy. And the daughter does nothing but film her dressing up her cat like an Indian princess. And while she's making the cat beautiful and, imagining and creatively imagining this is like an Indian princess, a Gujarati beautiful princess, she will, every act she does to make her physically beautiful, she goes, you're so decent. And it's interesting to think how in other cultures, all of it's decency, being beautiful and the behaviors. Whereas in America, we call physical acts of beauty like art, visual harmony, simply beauty. And we call the behaviors to fit in and make people feel good decency and respectable and get status in society as just being decent, respectable, right? And I think that difference comes from the illusion of free will. We have a huge emphasis on an illusion of free will that comes from our Christian roots. And it kind of boils over into when we see people behaving in a way to be beautiful, we don't as much connect that with it's all to be socially harmonious. It goes along with the behavior, right? That other cultures that have less of an emphasis from Christian roots on free will They would just simply polarize all socially harmonious behaviors, both the physical and the behavioral, as decency. And I think this is also why in America, in Western, historically Christian, free will, we believe in that, and we're liberal now countries, when you see somebody who is artistic minded, aesthetic minded, is interested in the more visual, expressive, physical aspects of beauty, to create into a creation of a feeling of pleasant feelings and harmony. When they also don't have the behavior to match that, and they're more like jarring and not as mindful to coddle your emotions, we hate those people the most. I would liken it to Blake Lively versus Margot Robbie, right? Margot Robbie is Glenda the Good Witch, right? Like everyone loves her. She both is extremely mindful of aesthetic physical beauty and social harmonious behavior. Everything she says, every way she acts is to not give a bad impression to anyone. Someone like Blake Lively is beautiful and puts effort into the physical aspects of social harmony, but her behavior is extremely not socially harmonious in how she speaks. It could be from oblivious of being rich and coddled, or it could be um, just simply not feeling she wants to. But the statements she makes and the behavior she engages in are not socially harmonious to coddle people's feelings and make them feel good. She's not like a Courtney Love type by any means, but she has a repeating pattern of doing obtuse things that are not like, I'm gonna be labeled Glenda the Good Witch in this shit. I'm gonna be good for no fucking reason. The way Margot Robbie does, right? And we tend to, those kind of people where it's like incongruent and they only mind the physical aspects but not the behavioral ones, we hate them the most. And I think it's because it's incomprehensible to the average person who's conformist that somebody would be interested in aesthetics for any reason but fitting in, right? So when you have that incongruity between how you look and the kind of aesthetic minded behavior you do in a visual way and behavior, you will tend to be labeled evil very rapidly, right? It's just as invalid as um how people who have both on deck are labeled good and just loved. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that people who are beautiful are also good. You look at all children's movies, the heroine's always very cute and the enemy is ugly, right? And scary physically as well as in their behavior. And now this exists to promote society. Like people who are mindful of how they look and how they appear physically tend to also do that in behavior. And they're the most pro-social people and they're the most useful to make a positive society. When you see someone sloppy and dirty and also behaving in a discordant way, they tend to be less conducive to maintaining that society. And I think this is why in so many children's tales, they teach you to equate being good with being beautiful and behaving beautifully, as in socially harmonious to the group and the power structure. And we react the worst to people who only do the physical part and not the social part. We react much better to people where maybe physically they aren't very attractive, but socially they put a lot of work into social beauty, right? Because those people are ultimately more useful to maintaining the status quo, right? So you'll see this also in children's movies. The recurring character who, despite their beauty, they're evil, right? And all of this is to train children look for signs of social harmony in people. And the ones who are not useful to maintaining the power structure, destroy them. So the first clue would be somebody who's both physically and behaviorally beautiful. Those are going to be the best because they're just the most able to perform this, which means they're probably the most able to maintain the system. The next person you have to clock, though, is the one, despite their appearance, they're actually good. They're actually very harmonious. That's also a good person because ultimately they're preserving the structure. The ones you need to watch out for are physically and behaviorally ugly, or the secret, who is, despite their beauty, they're actually evil, like um Vanessa in the Little Mermaid, or the evil stepmother in Sleeping Beauty. Despite their beauty, they're socially not harmonious and will upend the power structure. Those are the bad side, and those are the good side. Beautiful inside and out, and despite my beastly experience external, I'm very good, you know. Um, that's why I think we look for people like Blake Lively to destroy. It's rather congruent with the promotion of fascism, like looking for secret evil. Like, that's our favorite person to destroy. The ugly inside and out is like, we see you right away. We don't need to wonder what you're about. But the one where it's like, despite your beauty, you're so not harmonious. We need to kick you out and destroy you and let everyone know you're bad. Um, that's very much like adjacent to the psychology of fascism, where it's like, despite it seems like they're not bad, they really are in secret, you know? They have a secret evil. It's similar to what Google cult is teaching people to do to me as well. Like, make me ugly, make it seem like I'm hideous, right? Conflating not only making me evil, right? Despite the fact I'm not evil, but kind of making them bleed into, I'm now physically hideous. That's the function of rape and why they rape me. They're trying to make it real in their minds. I'm as ugly as they're saying I am. That my behavior socially is so bad. I'm hideous. I'm beneath reproach, right? And I know what they're doing, but they're simple, so they don't know what they're doing. But I do, right? And it's all an illusion. And the concept of beauty in social harmony with the power structure, the people who are most celebrated and lauded and considered decent and respectable are the ugliest of all in reality. They're the least harmonious. They're the most, if you consider harmony being pleasing to others, helpful to others, a use to others, the people who are most celebrated, like the billionaire class and their direct orbiters beneath them, the intelligence community, they're the most ugly of all. Hideous, even physically. But their control is so great, they can make you think people like Elon Musk are attractive in some way. And so they do the opposite for themselves. Like, the undue praise and respectability and decency they brainwash you into thinking they deserve, they also make it bleed into their physical form, and for absolutely no reason. Many people think Elon Musk is attractive. When anyone looking with clear eyes, he's a hideous frog. He's disgusting, right? They do the same thing in reverse to people they fascist scapegoat as all bad, disharmonious, a harm to you. Even if they're not ugly, they make you blend the social behavior they said is so unacceptable and disgusting and harmful to you, physical form. And that's the utility of rape for what they've done to me, right? Interesting to think. And yeah, Brian Warner's definitely evil, but he's not stupid. He's just evil.